want to organize a concert to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the moon landing and also the 60th anniversary of NASA, and also to incorporate in it Richard Strauss's great work, Also sprach Zarathustra, which Stanley Kubrick used famously for the opening of his film 2001: A Space Odyssey. Everybody knows this music, but they don't necessarily know all 30 minutes of that great, powerful work or what it's really about. So I thought we would organize 4 different pieces that sort of are in the same orbit, as it were. And so beginning with the idea of music that was used in 2001, I drew on 3 other composers whose work is associated with film to some extent. Certainly John Williams and his music for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is stunning music and it will represent the orchestra beautifully in a concert setting. And then music of Erich Wolfgang Korngold, who is one of the great early composers for film, before Bernard Herrmann, long before John Williams. His violin concerto, featuring Jinju Cho. And then to begin, music of John Adams, whose music has been used in every imaginable capacity, including in film, though he's better known for his concert writing or for opera. And this is a work which, for music about space and space exploration, is appropriately called A Short Ride in a Fast Machine. So all 4 composers are writing music that's extremely filmic. It's very imagery driven. They all in some way relate to this idea of commemorating the moon landing. And it will make for music of incredible power and tremendous orchestral color. Thus spake Zarathustra. We say spake because the Nietzsche, the novel, the philosophical work that it's based on, some of the writing is intentionally old-fashioned. It's meant to imitate, in some cases, biblical language. So you could say, thus spake Zarathustra. Zarathustra was Zoroaster, so the prophet of Zoroastrianism. And it's a long and intentionally kind of mysterious philosophical piece of writing, but essentially what it describes is the prophet, who's a stand-in for Nietzsche, the great philosopher himself, advocating to human beings that we need to evolve to a higher spiritual plane. We need to get out of our petty habits and our daily conflicts, and he especially was turning against a form of pessimism that was very much in vogue then. People who said, well, suffering is inevitable, so the only thing human beings can really do is withdraw from the world. And this is the great use of art, is that art gets us out of real life. Nietzsche said, no, art gets us into real life. It gets us to a depth of experience. It can be our suffering or it can be our joy. Both are inevitable. It's part of this eternal cycle that happens, and music and the other arts help us appreciate the life-giving force that these cycles give us. That's the basic message of Also sprach Zarathustra. The music begins with that 2001 music, and if you remember the opening of Kubrick's film, it's a sunrise. It's actually the sun emerging from behind an unknown planet as seen from outer space. Nietzsche's philosophical novel also begins with a sunrise. And in both cases, the sun seems to stand for the unknowable majesty of the universe, just the timeless, eternal realities of living in this unexplained, marvelous, overwhelmingly beautiful universe. And so Strauss wanted to capture that image, and his music does so beautifully. And then the rest of the work takes us essentially through the stages of the evolution of mankind as Nietzsche described them in Zarathustra. So the arrival of man on the planet Earth is associated first with fear. And Strauss's music after the sunrise is very fearful. Then it goes into music of religion, as if religion is the answer to our suffering. And then music of a scientific nature, which he treats with fugues, which is a very sort of academic way of writing music to represent science and these different phases until he finally gets to that point that I described a little bit, which is the cycles, the ups and downs of life, to treat it at those themselves are the essence of life. And so it ends in a waltz, or toward the end, a waltz, which is sort of a joyous expression of the cycles of movement. At the end, the piece ends on a big question mark. So Strauss sets up two kinds of sounds. One represents the eternal universe, and the other is mankind's effort to understand it. One is C major, the other is in the key of B. And the two never are reconciled, just as we can never fully understand the universe. He leaves it that way, and that's his way of sort of acknowledging the philosophical questions that Nietzsche left unanswered. We have a great guest artist, a really exciting artist that we've tried to book now for several years in a row. Jinju Cho, who's a Clevelander and now on the faculty at the Cleveland Institute of Music, came to play for me probably 10 years ago. Just a little quick audition. She had been recommended to me by a member of our orchestra, Gary Davis, trumpeter, and Alan Bodman, who was our concertmaster at the time, and I sat out in the hall, and we looked at each other after Jinju finished, and we said to each other at the same time in the same way, we should book her. I think the next season, or the season after that maybe, she won one of the most prestigious violin competitions in the world, one of the really big prizes in the world, and that's the Indianapolis International Violin Competition. She got the gold medal, and her career has taken off ever since, and it's made her rather difficult to book. But this year we have, and we looked at many different options, and I said, knowing that we had this program and the opportunity maybe to include another famous composer of films, that she might be willing to do Erich Wolfgang Korngold's Violin Concerto, which is a work he actually wrote in America, born in Central Europe, moved to America as an emigre during the Second World War and at the onset of the Second World War, and became a very important figure in Hollywood. His Violin Concerto is for a large orchestra. It's extremely colorful, it's active and scarily athletic for the violin, and Jinju just plays the spots off it. So this is going to be high entertainment and a very exciting kind of centerpiece for our program. Two pieces that I want to mention by elder statesmen of American music. John Williams and his Close Encounters of the Third Kind, astonishing music, great concert music. And John Adams, Short Ride in a Fast Machine, iconic music by maybe America's leading concert music composer, I'd have to say, and one of the path-breaking composers of the late 20th or early 21st century. Iconic pieces that show the orchestra with tremendous vitality. It's exciting music, it's colorful, it's powerful, it's music to move you. And if there's anything that space travel and this whole idea of what Kubrick's film is about, it's kind of to sit back and just be amazed at the dreams that human beings can have and our ability to work together, which is what an orchestra does, to realize them, to create an effect that is just astonishing. I believe this is music worthy of that challenge.